It is generally not recommended to feed an outside outlet from a kitchen ground fault circuit interrupter (GFCI) receptacle. The primary reason for this recommendation stems from the potential for nuisance tripping. A ground fault circuit interrupter is designed to protect people from electrical shock by monitoring the current flowing in the circuit. If it detects an imbalance between the outgoing and returning current, indicating that some current is leaking to ground, it quickly trips the circuit, cutting off the power. This is a critical safety feature, especially in areas where water is present, such as kitchens and outdoors. Kitchen circuits are often required to be ground fault protected due to the presence of sinks and other water sources. Outdoor receptacles are also typically required to be ground fault protected because of the increased risk of moisture exposure. However, when an outdoor receptacle is fed from a kitchen ground fault circuit interrupter, several issues can arise. Firstly, outdoor environments are more susceptible to ground faults due to factors such as moisture, rain, and snow. Even a small amount of moisture can create a path for current to leak to ground, causing the ground fault circuit interrupter to trip. Secondly, appliances and tools used outdoors, such as lawnmowers, power washers, and electric grills, are more likely to have insulation damage or other issues that can contribute to ground faults. Thirdly, the cumulative effect of multiple appliances or devices connected to the circuit can increase the likelihood of a ground fault. Even if each individual device has a small amount of leakage current, the combined leakage can be enough to trip the ground fault circuit interrupter. When a ground fault circuit interrupter trips, it cuts off power to all receptacles in the circuit, including the kitchen receptacles. This can be inconvenient and disruptive, especially if it happens frequently. Imagine you are preparing a meal in the kitchen and the ground fault circuit interrupter trips, cutting off power to your appliances. To avoid nuisance tripping and ensure reliable power to both the kitchen and outdoor receptacles, it is best to use a dedicated ground fault circuit interrupter circuit for the outdoor receptacle. This means that the outdoor receptacle should be wired to a separate circuit breaker in the electrical panel with its own ground fault circuit interrupter protection. This way, if a ground fault occurs in the outdoor circuit, it will not affect the kitchen circuit, and vice versa. In addition to preventing nuisance tripping, a dedicated circuit for the outdoor receptacle can also provide other benefits. Firstly, it can ensure that the outdoor receptacle has enough power to handle the load of the appliances or tools that will be used with it. If the outdoor receptacle is sharing a circuit with other kitchen appliances, the circuit may become overloaded, causing the circuit breaker to trip. Secondly, a dedicated circuit can make it easier to troubleshoot electrical problems. If there is a problem with the outdoor receptacle, you can isolate the problem to that circuit without affecting the kitchen circuit. When installing a dedicated circuit for an outdoor receptacle, it is important to follow all applicable electrical codes and safety regulations. The National Electrical Code, NEC, provides detailed requirements for the installation of outdoor receptacles, including the type of wiring, the type of receptacle, and the type of ground fault protection. In addition, local building codes may have additional requirements. It is always best to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the installation is done safely and correctly. In general, the National Electrical Code requires that all outdoor receptacles be ground fault protected. This can be accomplished by using a ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle or a ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breaker. A ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle is a special type of receptacle that has a built-in ground fault circuit interrupter. It is typically installed in place of a standard receptacle and provides ground fault protection for all devices plugged into it. A ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breaker is a special type of circuit breaker that has a built-in ground fault circuit interrupter. It is installed in the electrical panel and provides ground fault protection for all receptacles on the circuit. When choosing between a ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle and a ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breaker, there are several factors to consider. Ground fault circuit interrupter receptacles are generally less expensive than ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breakers. However, ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breakers provide protection for the entire circuit, while ground fault circuit interrupter receptacles only provide protection for devices plugged into that specific receptacle. In addition, ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breakers can be more convenient to reset if they trip, as they can be reset at the electrical panel. When installing an outdoor receptacle, it is also important to choose a receptacle that is rated for outdoor use. Outdoor receptacles are designed to withstand the elements such as rain, snow, and sunlight. They typically have a weatherproof cover that protects the receptacle from moisture and debris. In addition to ground fault protection, outdoor receptacles should also be protected by a weatherproof cover when not in use. This will help to prevent moisture and debris from entering the receptacle and causing a short circuit or other electrical problem. The type of wiring used for an outdoor receptacle is also important. The National Electrical Code requires that outdoor wiring be listed for wet locations. This means that the wiring must be able to withstand exposure to moisture without deteriorating. The most common type of wiring used for outdoor receptacles is underground feeder off cable. Underground feeder cable is a type of cable that is designed to be buried directly in the ground. It has a tough outer jacket that protects the conductors from moisture and physical damage. When installing underground feeder cable, it is important to bury it at the proper depth. The National Electrical Code specifies the minimum burial depth for underground feeder cable, depending on the type of cable and the location. In general, underground feeder cable should be buried at least 12 inches deep. In addition to the electrical considerations, there are also some safety considerations to keep in mind when installing an outdoor receptacle. Firstly, it is important to disconnect the power to the circuit before working on any electrical wiring. This can be done by turning off the circuit breaker that supplies power to the circuit. Secondly, it is important to use proper safety equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. Thirdly, it is important to follow all applicable electrical codes and safety regulations. Working with electricity can be dangerous, so it is important to take precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. In summary, it is not recommended to feed an outside outlet from a kitchen ground fault circuit interrupter. This can lead to nuisance tripping and other problems. It is best to use a dedicated ground fault circuit interrupter circuit for the outdoor receptacle. When installing an outdoor receptacle, it is important to follow all applicable electrical codes and safety regulations. This will help to ensure that the installation is done safely and correctly. It is also important to consider the specific needs of the outdoor receptacle. For example, if the receptacle will be used to power heavy-duty tools or appliances, it may be necessary to install a dedicated circuit with a higher amperage rating. The National Electrical Code, NEC, Article 210.8 provides requirements for ground fault circuit interrupter protection for personnel. Specifically 210.8. Requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for all 125 volt through 250 volt receptacles installed in bathrooms. 210.8. A2 requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for all 125 volt through 250 volt receptacles installed in kitchens. This includes receptacles that serve countertop surfaces. 210.8. A3 requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for all 125 volt through 250 volt receptacles installed in boathouses. 210.8. A5 requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for all 125 volt through 250 volt receptacles installed outdoors. This includes receptacles that are readily accessible and receptacles that are not readily accessible. 210.8. D requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for all 125 volt through 250 volt dishwashers. 210.8. F requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for all electric vehicle supply equipment. These are just a few of the many requirements for ground fault circuit interrupter protection in the National Electrical Code. It is important to consult the code for the specific requirements that apply to your situation. There are many reasons to avoid sharing a kitchen ground fault circuit interrupter with an outdoor outlet. 1. Kitchens and outdoor areas have different electrical demands. Kitchens often have multiple appliances running simultaneously, like refrigerators, microwaves, and blenders. This can put a strain on the circuit. Outdoor outlets are often used for power tools or yard equipment, which can also draw a significant amount of power. Putting these two high-demand areas on the same circuit can easily overload it, leading to trip breakers and potential safety hazards. 2. Environmental factors differ. Kitchens are generally dry environments, while outdoor areas are exposed to the elements. Moisture is a major enemy of electrical systems, as it can create a path for current to leak, leading to ground faults. This is why outdoor outlets are required to have ground fault circuit interrupter protection in the first place. If an outdoor outlet is connected to a kitchen ground fault circuit interrupter, any moisture-related ground fault will trip the ground fault circuit interrupter, cutting off power to the kitchen as well. This can be a major inconvenience. 3. Code compliance dictates separation. The National Electrical Code (NECT) has specific requirements for outdoor outlets, including the type of receptacle, the type of wiring, and the type of ground fault protection. These requirements are designed to ensure the safety of people and property. Sharing a kitchen ground fault circuit interrupter with an outdoor outlet may not meet these requirements, putting you at risk of code violations. 4. Troubleshooting becomes more complex. If there is an electrical problem with the outdoor outlet, it can be difficult to troubleshoot if it is connected to the kitchen circuit. You may have to shut off power to the entire kitchen to work on the outdoor outlet, which can be a major inconvenience. A dedicated circuit for the outdoor outlet makes troubleshooting much easier. 5. Ground fault circuit interrupter sensitivity varies. Ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to trip when they detect a small amount of current leakage to ground. However, the sensitivity of ground fault circuit interrupters can vary. Some ground fault circuit interrupters are more sensitive than others. If you have a particularly sensitive ground fault circuit interrupter in your kitchen, it may be more likely to trip when an outdoor outlet is connected to it, even if there is no actual ground fault. To properly install an outdoor receptacle, firstly, plan the location carefully. Choose a location that is convenient and accessible, but also protected from the elements. The receptacle should be mounted at least 12 inches above the ground and should be protected by a weatherproof cover. Secondly, select the right receptacle and cover. Use a ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle that is rated for outdoor use. Choose a weatherproof cover that is designed to protect the receptacle from rain, snow, and sunlight. Thirdly, run the wiring properly. Use underground feeder cable that is rated for wet locations. Vary the cable at the proper depth, according to the National Electrical Code. Fourthly, connect the wiring correctly. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for connecting the wiring to the receptacle. Make sure that all connections are tight and secure. Fifthly, test the ground fault circuit interrupter. After the receptacle is installed, test the ground fault circuit interrupter to make sure that it is working properly. To test the ground fault circuit interrupter, press the test button on the receptacle. The receptacle should trip and cut off power. Press the reset button to restore power. By following these steps, you can install an outdoor receptacle safely and correctly. This dedicated circuit will prevent nuisance tripping, ensure code compliance, and simplify troubleshooting. Remember, safety is paramount when working with electricity. If you are not comfortable with electrical work, hire a qualified electrician to do the job.